A lot of people think when it's 5 o'clock and the rest of the town is shut down, a lot of people seems to think that the work's over. Or if you're a business owner, it's time to lock the doors, go home to your family, do that kind of sort of thing. It used to be like that at one time. You know, back when the business was good, generation of workers were a lot different. These days, not so much. This is the first time our company's ever been a one-man band, so to speak. This story's a long story. I only have a short amount of time to tell y'all this, and 20 minutes won't cover it all. So I'll try to do my best with the time that we're allotted. My name's Jason Young, also known as Jay Young. It's kind of funny the way I got my name on YouTube was because my computer friend started me account up and he put Jay Young, not ever knowing that one day I would be known as Jay Young, Mr. Big, and all that, Sheriff, and some more names that I can't say on here. My story starts, as far as business, when I was 12 years old. I've told this story before. I don't know if I'll be able to get in depth more than what I have in the past. When I was 12 years old, my family started this business. My dad had worked as a parts guy for 16 years. My grandfather had worked on like a hobbyist in his backyard that had moved up to a large-scale business for a residential area. So my father and grandfather put this place in. I never would have built this business. I'm not a risk taker, you know, to build a business. I know you've heard it said, if you build it, they will come. I'm not so sure I believe in that. So they built it in 1989. And as a 12-year-old, I remember questioning my dad, and I might have been smarter than what I thought I was at 12 years old. I remember asking him, why didn't you put a four-wheeler place in, or ATV place, or something like that? Because that, to a 12-year-old, that's a lot more fun than tractors, and as a 40-year-old, that's still a lot more fun than tractors. So I remember having a dream of one day building a business upstairs to trade baseball cards. So my heart wasn't into tractors or repairs or anything like that. So I still remember that. So many times since 1989, ups and downs. I remember seeing the payment on this place for the first time, $4,400 a month. And even, you know, the 15, 16-year-old kid, I remember $4,400. Wow, you know, what kind of money is this place making? Not understanding banking, not understanding that, you know, hey, it's easy to spend money when it's borrowed money. You know, when you borrow $500,000 and you spend $200 on building, and you still got $200 or $300 to float you for inventory and payroll and all that for a little while. And my dad was one of the best guys you'll ever meet. He was one of the worst business guys you'll ever meet as well. So didn't manage the money right. But we had several good years on borrowed money. We become a Kubota dealership, sold Kubota for 8 years. Moved a lot of dollars worth through this little place, through this family business. Had 14 employees at one time, 2 bookkeepers. I know I've said that in previous videos. And then you could see it slowly pulling back, you know. I remember we had a little break area over there by the drink machine. I remember my dad calling the parts guy, the 3 mechanics over, and he was furnishing, even as a small family business, he was furnishing all the employees and their spouses and family insurance. And even as a young teenager, I thought that was crazy. I can't believe we was doing that anyway. And I remember the day that he had to tell them that we had to cut that out, that the expenses was becoming more than the profit, and them getting upset, naturally so, as an employee, way of thinking, not understanding you know, the way an owner thinks, or, you know, if the business don't make profit, you won't have a job to worry about insurance anyway. So that was kind of the first clue as a teenager, realizing things wasn't just all that good. Fast forward, I graduated high school. I never, you know, you see those kids that, especially from a small town, who want to move off, bigger city and all that. I never wanted that. I never wanted to go to college. I did enough in school to get by. That's all I wanted to do. So it was pretty much, hey, I'm going to do the family business. But it's at those ages, it's extremely hard to get along with family. Extremely. My aunt had a carpet store 10 miles north of us in Dyersburg, and I went to work for her when I turned 18. I'd worked out here during summers, after school and all that, you know. But I wanted to get away from the family. So I got away from the family, so to speak, and went to work for my aunts. You know, pretty much selling carpet and cabinets and doors, and I learned how to build interior and exterior doors and figure cabinets and base cabinets and wall cabinets and Lazy Susans, and, you know, and later on I didn't know that that would play a part in me building houses and selling them and all that, but it did. About a year that was all I ever wanted, and I remember calling my dad saying, hey, I want to come back to the family business. And he's like, okay, but you're going to pull your weight. And we still had several employees here and all that. And I came back, and pretty much like it was before. And then it was just something. I had a good friend go work at a factory, one of the best factories here in Lauderdale County. And he was idolizing it so much. I remember thinking, man, if I could just only get a job, you know, working there. And he worked third shift. And I remember thinking in my mind, man, I could work third shift, make that great money, come in first shift, work at the tractor shop, and look at all the money I'm going to be making. I never thought, when are you going to sleep, you big dummy, you know? And that quickly faded. I cut time out here, and my wife got pregnant with Jace, had insurance out there, pretty much made the factory the full-time money maker, and scaled this back to the bare minimum. My dad was burned out after, you know, at that time it had been 20 years, something like that. My dad had got burned out. He was also a pastor in a church, so he was dedicating more of his life to that part of it. And after 5 years working third shift, I hated third shift. I hated third shift. Going through a divorce, I remember, you know, calling my dad and saying, hey, I want to come back to the shop. And it ever so familiar conversation from years before when I was 18. I was 35 this time, I think. 33, something like that. And I remember him saying, you know, Jason, I'm burning out. I've sold a lot of the inventory. You know that. You come out here. The shop was running down. He had a little money in the bank because he had sold inventory but not reordered. So, but my dad, being the terrible business guy, but the loving father, great man, said, look, if you want to make a go at it, you'll beat yourself up inside if you never find out what it's about. So I came back, and during the divorce, because when my first wife, we had been married, I bought or built houses, and me being the contractor, seeing all the work done out or doing a lot of work myself, I was able to build up a lot of equity in houses. So when we got divorced, I got $50,000, she got $50,000. I knew that by looking at the books and stuff out here that at the get-go that I wasn't going to be able to draw a salary for at least a year. So I was renting a place and working out here, turning the business around, using a lot of my own money and all that, and not drawing a salary. After the first year, I remember the money dwindling down and me thinking, I'm going to have to do something kind of different. I'm paying rent, I'm paying utilities, I'm doing this, and that's when I built my apartment. I was going to build a temporary apartment, which ended up being 7 years later. But one of the best things I ever did was build that apartment, because I was able to invest some money that it's not going anywhere. It did nothing but value our business. But when I came back, even though I was more in the marketing, I was focusing on a lot of the restorations and stuff like that, and I started seeing business come in and more business come in, and my dad had focused on the wrong kind of customer. He was focusing on all the row crop farmers and the guy who's getting subsidies and all that. And I was focusing on the weekend warriors and the guys who, you know, wanted to make their tractors look pretty and carry them to shows and all that. And I saw we was really gaining traction. But I still wasn't back in the books, back in the finances. So a lot of y'all know this part of the story. You fast forward, and my dad finds out he has cancer. At no time did he ever hold his head down. At no time did he ever, you know, act as if, you know, he was going down like that. So I had no, you know, he knows how he feels, so I wasn't worried. People stop me and say, hey, I heard your dad got cancer. Yeah, he's got cancer. He's going to be okay, whatever. He wasn't okay. When I turned 35, I lost my dad. One of the most scariest things that ever happened to me in my life, no doubt. With me and him, we had built up a couple of employees and all that, and he saw the direction I was carrying the business and all that, but we had lost my granddad and all that, and I had it in my mind that he was going to take my granddad's place and I was going to take his place, and you know, my son would come up and it was going to be a perfect world. Far from that it was. So I got back in the bookkeeping after I lost my dad, and gosh, remember me saying my dad was a terrible business guy? He hadn't paid years in income taxes, property taxes, had a sales tax audit. So I remember selling everything that wasn't tied down. I was an avid gun collector. I sold thousands of dollars worth of guns. Just the ones that meant something to me is the only ones I kept. And I had a frame of mind. I drove his work truck, his 06 work truck, roll-up windows diesel, because it did the job, you know. And only until I got myself out of that mess did I go buy a Midnight truck, go buy toys, and go buy this, and had money to show for it. In doing so, a lot of y'all may know this, and I fail to say, or I refuse to say I fell victim to drug abuse. I took hydrocodone, a painkiller, recreational, didn't hurt my back, I didn't break my leg or get hooked on whatever. I did it because it made me feel good, and it gave me energy, and I could sell ice cream to Eskimos. However, after a while, that plays a toll on you. Different effects that I really don't want to discuss in this video, and I knew I had to get off that, so I did. And I've been clean with the help of a methadone clinic for 2 years now. But since I've turned the business around, I remember telling a lot of the people, you know, I had some close relatives, friends and stuff like that ask me, you know, what, it's got to feel great, you turn the business around, getting the business, putting your name and all that. I apologize for my phone ringing, by the way. It's got to feel great when you turn the business around and all that. And the best way to explain it is because they had worked 20 plus years, my dad and granddad, and they spent the borrowed money and they suffered through some tough times. They never saw the profit. They never, you know, reaped the rewards, and I felt like I was reaping them, and it was due to, you know, a different approach I took or angle, whatever, and grace of God and hard work. People ask me how it feels, and I tell them all the time, it feels like when you've won a race and you cross the finish line, arms wide open, and there's nobody there. And that's the best way I can describe it. Any other time, I'd be choked up telling the story. Every time I tell it, I get a little bit stronger. That's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and the worst thing. It's the worst thing because my dad was my best friend. He was the one that, you know, I remember when he died wondering, you know, can I run this business by myself? Do I want to? I didn't know if I had it in me. You will be surprised what you have inside you that you don't know that's there, that has to come out. When it's a sink or swim, you hear people taking their dogs or kids and throw them in the deep end or whatever. It's kind of one of those situations. After losing my dad, a couple years later, I lost my mother to her cancer had came back also. So losing my parents, bam, bam, just like that. made me stronger, to say the least. Since then, I made a bunch of bad decisions in my life. I really have. I've surrounded myself with people who it benefited them to have me around them more than it did them around me. So I've cut a lot of them off, and I had some employees and slash friends of mine that I've known for a long time leave me, and I pretty much had a distrust in people. I don't want to hire any more employees. I've got more work. I've probably got 25 jobs here now, and I tell people, you can't call a temporary agency, a Randstad, or some of those others and say, hey, I need a diesel mechanic, or hey, I need a body man or a painter. Those people have jobs. They're skilled labor. It's not, manual labor. It's skilled labor, and it's hard to find people, especially generation now, who care about their work. So I was finding myself being held almost hostage to employees, and what I mean by that is, if somebody would say, I'm not coming in for 2 days, pretty much what are you going to do about it? You can't fire me. You've got too much work. So when they left, I've been gun shy to hire anybody. So I had in my head, if I've got to work 7 days a week, night and day, to do the work, I'm going to do what I can do, and I'm going to let the rest fall in God's hands. I never realized till I started YouTube how many people don't believe in God. I doubt, if anybody doubts God, I promise you, it's this guy right here. I don't understand why a lot of the things happen that happens. I don't. It's easy for me to say, hey, yeah, he took my parents earlier, or my son unexpectedly quit talking to me after, I did everything I could to be the perfect daddy. But then you find people who didn't have the childhood that I had raising up, or lost their parents much younger than me, or lost a child. So it's always somebody, as you always hear, that has it a whole lot worse than look around my shop. It's not glamorous. It's not banking. It's not, I don't drive a Ferrari or a Corvette or anything like that, but it affords me a good life. It does. And any day I want to, I can make $1,000. It's if I want to get out there and do the work. And as a YouTube subscriber, you shouldn't envy, I've said this before, you shouldn't envy business owners. There's many days I trade it in a minute. I mean in a minute, for a good paying job and do this kind of work on the side. But I will tell you this, because my time's up. I've debated, and y'all know I've debated selling my business. But this is more than just a building. It's more than just a shell. It's more than just tractors. Tractors still don't excite me to this day. But this is my family's business. This is what my granddad and my daddy started, and something that I've got a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, a lot. I don't know which one I got more of. Some days they all equal out. And if my son decides to come around, take over my business, my nephew Jackson, however it falls, however the cookie crumbles, and kind of, there's a young man, y'all don't know who I'm talking about, XXX Tentacion or whatever, and he pretty much said it. If I was to die today, I've lived a good life. I've just about experienced everything I want to experience, and I've worked hard for what I got, and I'm proud to where I've gotten in life, and the friends that have now surrounded me to this day, actually right this very moment, they're the ones that I trust, I believe in, and they also have my back. They're in my corner. So kind of like J-Ma did, and we're gonna miss that guy. I hope you've enjoyed my short story. Leave comments below, good or bad, thumbs up, thumbs down. This is Jay Young, and I'm out.